What's up, y'all? It's your girl Shay Vlogs, and I am back with another reaction video. In the last reaction video, I know I had a couple audio issues, but I fixed it, and this style of video is going to be a little different. So let me know what you guys think about it in the comments down below. But before we go ahead and get into this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and go ahead and turn on your post notification bell so you can be notified the next time I post or go live.
If you met a man and he treated you right, what would be an acceptable amount of money for him to spend on a wedding ring that would make you happy?
I don't care about that type of shit at all. At all. Like $1,000, not whatever you could afford. I'm not big on material shit.
So we talk about this because this is, unprecedented where, women are making that much money. And, it's hard to probably find a man who's at that bracket.
Yes.
So you always will probably come into a situation where you like a guy, but you know he's going to be way under you.
That's almost every man I with.
I'm sure. I'm sure. So how do you judge when to be submissive and when to be dominant in your situations? Because you're always going to come in the breadwinner, I'm assuming.
So first off, for a woman, for any boss woman, that submissive shit, it takes a certain type of submissive, number one. And I don't mean by no damn bank account. It's way deeper than that. As long as a man of God and he's staying on business and he's a kind person.
This whole entire conversation of when to be submissive versus when not to be submissive to a man, it's kind of just murky waters, okay? For me personally, I feel like if I like a man and he possesses the qualities that I want in a man, I can be submissive to him. I don't mind being submissive to my man, but he has to know how to lead. I don't need you willy-nilly just making rash decisions and just all over the place and then wanting me to follow you. And then even worse, if we have kids together and you want me to lead our kids into this kind of situation, I can't do that. So I need you to have your head on straight. He doesn't have to be like a six-figure earner. Of course, I want him to make some money because of course you have to take care of the family, but he doesn't have to be like this high-value man who makes 6-7 figures a month and all this kind of crazy stuff. It doesn't have to be like that. I'm also not materialistic. As long as we love each other, I can live off of that. Honestly, I'm not a big materialistic person, as you can tell. I'm pretty sure you guys can tell. I'm very humble. I'm very just chill. So you don't have to spend $300,000 minimum on a wedding, and we don't have to have this big wedding. I don't want any of that kind of stuff. I'm not that type of person. I actually get really nervous in those type of situations, so I prefer to stay out of them. So I'm actually happy to have a small wedding, and that's kind of like where I'm going with it.
Well, it was something I noticed. I actually had a brother reach out to me, and he was talking about, he was married and his wife is a 6-figure earner, and he talked about her girlfriends that would come over and complain about their husbands. And as he would talk about it, one of the things he shared with me is they had to ask for an allowance from their wives just to go hang out and drink a beer. So I was just kind of asking him some more questions about it. And one of the things he revealed is that this group of 6-figure earning women were all exclusively married to brothers who were ex-cons. And if anything, they were unemployed and to some extent homeless when they met. You know what I mean? And so now they're kind of house husbands, which there's nothing wrong with if that's what works for your relationship. But the problem was the women were actually complaining about the fact that they didn't have an income, complaining about the fact that they weren't the men that, that they've been idealizing since they were young. And yet these were the men that they chose, right? And so he was confused, and he reached out to me because he was asking me, why is this the case? And as I started to look into it, I realized it really wasn't a whole lot different than son husbands. So, we talk about son husbands as boys whose biological mothers kind of have them play husband roles in their lives, play roles that are really, inappropriate. And it doesn't have to get sexual, but unfortunately, there are times where it does. There is sexual violation in regard to that. But for the most part, when we talk about son husbands, these are biological offspring that are asked to play emotionally laborious roles for mothers that usually are reserved for men. With husband sons, one of the things I began to notice is that you had well-to-do women who were employed, who were educated, so on and so forth, and who would use the rationale that there were no other options, and they would choose men that were intentionally in such a low position that those men could not offer much challenge. So in other words, they were in the dominant position in the relationship. These men depended on them for hearth and home, for income, for food, for everything. And if there was so much as an argument.
Unfortunately, this does happen. Some women who are six-figure earners, because they've gotten to such a place of, I guess, financial status, the dating pool for them is kind of like tainted. It's not as open as it would be for just more of an average earning woman, you know? So you kind of have to settle. So these people usually do go and marry cons or jailbirds, you know, things like that, you know. So you end up being very lonely when you get to this place of, oh, I'm a six-figure earning woman. I'm such an independent woman. I do for myself. What are you bringing to the table? When you get to that status, unfortunately, the dating pool does get even slimmer. So your chances of finding a man who is either a 6 or 7 figure earner who earns more than you. Also, I feel like when women hang around other women who gossip about their men, that's super toxic. I'm not one of those people who is going to bring my issues with my man to my girlfriends and kind of just down my man, because at the end of the day, I know I'm going to stay with this man. So me telling you all these bad things about him, but not telling you like the good stuff, is not something that I even want to do. I don't even want to disrespect my man in that way. You know what I mean? So I personally have never been that type of woman who runs back and it's like, oh girl, he did this, he did this, he did this, and then goes back home and lays up with my man. That's never been me. So I feel like women who do that are very toxic, and I personally don't want to be around those people. So even my friends, they don't run to me and tell me just like the bad stuff that goes on with their man and things like that, because it's like that should be in-house. I don't want to know what you and your man got going on, because at the end of the day, I know you're going to stay with him.
African American women are being beaten by their Tanzanian husbands. And really what you had in that situation was a certain African American woman, not all, were getting with these Tanzanian men, moving to Tanzania or other parts of Africa. And sometimes they would basically, for the ladies that didn't want to submit, some of them would end up getting hit, okay? But I want to play a clip from Jonita, who's on my podcast over there, on the King Ghana podcast, and I want you to hear the African perspective of what a woman should be doing, regardless of how much he makes, to be submissive. Let's play that.
First off, I think what happens is when these African American women come to the continent, they get with the most traditional men. I don't know if that makes sense, because you definitely can find a modern African man and he doesn't think in that way. But I think when they move over to the continent, they want the guy who's like so traditional, the guy who's like African through and through. Is that making sense?
Yes, makes sense.
I feel like they look for like the guy who's wearing the dashiki and you know, with some African face paintings. Like they look for that type of African man.
Right.
And then when they get with that type of African man, they find out, oh, hey, this is not what happens in this region. Because when you look back, with the way the traditional African man is that he is the head of the family no matter what. You are not just going to wake up one day and start talking back to the man. If he is a traditional African man, it's not allowed. They just can't think of it. We all know someone, she's working, right? So when COVID happened, the husband stopped earning money. So the husband has not been earning, I think, for the past 2 years. She's been providing for that home. But when you see her interact with the husband, she is the most respectful woman. You can't even think she's the one funding that family. You can't think of that. So you see, so that's how most things are. But when I think of African American women being with these men, I think sometimes the power dynamics come in and then she's thinking, if I make more.
Like how the Bible says you should submit to a man, I feel like you should definitely do that. It doesn't say submit to a man. The Most High did not tell us submit to a man only if he is a six-figure earner. Submit to a man only if he is a high-value man. Submit to a man only if he is the sole provider financially of the family. It does not say that. It just says women should submit to a man. So I feel like it should not be subjective only to what he makes financially. So he may be lacking in the financial area. He may not be lacking in the financial area. You never know. But he definitely provides for you mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Those areas will make up for what he doesn't make financially. And I don't feel like you should ever disrespect a man based on him not making as much money as he used to, or him not being able to provide. And in no way am I telling you to submit to every man, because some men, they can't even lead themselves to water even if they tried, okay? Let's just be realistic, okay? Some of them are more feminine than us. And I'm not telling you to submit to those men. But if a man is a man and he has the qualities of a man, even if he doesn't have the financial components all together, I feel like you should still submit if he has all those qualities that you are looking for. And he knows how to lead. If he can lead you and provide for you in other aspects, you can look past the financial challenges that he may or may not have. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, some men just aren't leaders. They don't know how to lead. And if you can't even lead yourself to water, how can you lead me as your wife? And then how can you begin to lead our children? So, yeah, I'm not saying submit to all men, because definitely some of these men out here are not, I don't know what's going on, but that's when discernment comes into play. You should be a good judge of character and not pick those type of men to be your husband or to impregnate you, because a lot of people are just willy-nilly out here and getting pregnant by men that they don't even like, but because he has money,